Hello and welcome to Champion Your Culture, the podcast where we dive deep into the heart of leadership and organizational culture. I'm Ryan McCarty.
And I'm George Rogers. Together, we're here to guide you on a journey of personal and professional growth. Every week, we bring you insights, stories, and strategies to help you and your company thrive in today's dynamic world.
So whether you're leading a team, running a business, or just eager to make a positive impact, you are in the right place. Let's jump right into today's show and champion a culture of purpose and passion. Welcome to Champion Your Culture. Yo, it's 2024.
2024, welcome.
And we love you all more.
Yeah, that's it. We want more in 2024. Is that what it is?
Yeah, we want more in 2024. Yeah.
More what, man? We want more good things, more good vibes, more good energy,
more business,
more
money,
more success.
Absolutely, all of it.
Yeah,
more health,
stuff, more health, good health, not more health, because there could be more bad health. You want to be
more good health.
Yeah, you got to be careful what you say, because sometimes you say something, Ryan, and this is something that I learned. You got to make sure you put in the details. Like, back in the days, be careful what you pray, all this stuff.
Right.
You gotta be careful what you say, man, because you got to make sure what you say is exactly what you want. Because health, what kind of health? You want more health? Oh, let me give you more bad health, because you didn't specify. You didn't specify.
No, I don't believe any of that shit.
Oh, dude, I am a believer that I'm gonna tell you exactly what I want. Exactly.
Well, yeah, I get that.
Like, hey, let me have this and this away.
I think it's like the law of attraction.
It's the law of attraction. I mean, we both been, in a relationship and married for almost 20 years.
Well, sure, you definitely
you
have
gotta
to
be
say.
detailed. Like, so right off the bat,
oh God,
of Champion Your Culture, the podcast, we're gonna give some relationship tips.
Oh Lord,
be detailed in your communication, in your relationship, whatever ship you're on. So it doesn't have to be relationship.
Not even in
businessship, mentorship, coachship.
Yeah,
got to be very specific.
Yeah,
don't tell George, hey, come to work, because George is going to say, all right, you didn't tell me when to come to work.
Right. Sounds like bullshit.
Yeah, bullshit. That's a different one. That usually gets drained very quickly, ladies and gentlemen. All that. But how you doing, my friend? We've been off for a few weeks, enjoying some family time, enjoying getting our mental right, been healthy. We're both, we had a nice little salad, little eat healthy spot here around the corner.
Yeah,
that you introduced me to.
Clean Eats or something.
Clean
like
Eats.
Yeah.
And so, man, I had a nice salmon.
And what did I have?
You had the bison.
Bison. I was gonna.
That was your protein.
I forget what I was gonna say. I was gonna say buffalo.
Buffalo bison?
Is a bison a buffalo?
But I don't know, because the bison doesn't have wings.
Buffaloes have wings.
Buffalo.
Oh yeah, wings. Buffalo wings. That's right.
It has wings. I
was wondering. Yeah, you can't order bison wings.
That's right.
Yeah, buffalo wings.
Yeah, buffalo wings.
That makes sense. I get it.
So I don't know if like bison's the male or the female. Like, I
literally didn't even equate buffaloes with wings to that commercial where the buffalo has wings on what is it? That restaurant where there's a big old buffalo in all the restaurants now.
What is
wings?
Is it Applebee's?
No, it's
not Buffalo Wild Wings.
Yeah, Buffalo Wild Wings.
B-dubs.
Yeah, B-dubs.
Who would have thought Buffalo Wild Wings would have buffaloes in their
Why are they calling buffalo wings? Is it buffalo sauce?
Probably.
So buffaloes have sauce? We won't go there.
Yeah. Starting off the HR leadership with craziest stories. We're going to welcome everybody again to Champion Your Culture. New year, new Ryan and I, and a new studio.
Yeah,
I'm really liking the vibes. New shirts. We're rocking the new shirts.
This is for today because the topic coming up is going to be called perfect-ish culture. Yeah. Is there such a thing as a perfect culture? So right off the bat on our t-shirt, it says there is no such thing as a perfect culture.
And then on the back, I'll pop it up right here if you want to read it, Ryan, on the back. What does it say for us?
But yours doesn't have to suck.
That's true, ladies and gentlemen.
That is the phrase, yo. There's no such thing as a perfect culture. So we're going to get into that today. I think it's a really important topic because all of us want a better culture, right?
Yeah.
Better health, all of that kind of thing. But what are we asking for? What are we looking forward to when we're saying we want a better culture?
Yeah.
We want a great culture.
Yeah.
Right? Go from good to great. People used to ask me, why didn't I call it culture of great? I was like, well, because I haven't yet discovered a real great, perfect culture yet.
Yeah.
There's good ones though. There's good ones though. So today we're going to talk about how to not suck as a culture.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things that happens within the workplace. As we always say, Ryan, with people, I'm just a believer with people, there's always going to be some mess up.
Yeah.
Right. There's always going to be some imperfections. There's always going to be some people. I think of myself back in the days, if I was employed, by somebody 20 years ago, the 20-year-old George is a lot different than a 40-year-old George in the maturity or lack thereof, depending on who you're asking. But I make mistakes, man.
Yeah.
Like I'm just not perfect, and nor do I want to be.
Yeah.
Like the heaviness, the burden of perfection and the temptation of running away from it. Every once in a while, I like to get real close to temptations.
Well, that's good to know.
Never go to the island.
I'll tell you what mistake I made today is trying to use natural deodorant.
Yeah. Is that what that is?
I don't know if
I thought it was my salmon that I left
that's
in the
the
trash
bison,
can.
man. That's the bison. That's the bison sauce. I tried to use natural deodorant, and I've done this before because I'm trying to make, like, I'm looking at everything in my life. And when I think about the deodorant I use and how it's got aluminum and metals in it and stuff, and I'm just like, I have given this a shot so many times, but my armpits sweat like you wouldn't believe. And, I'm just a big sweaty mess over here right now. So I want to apologize to you because you're the only one in the studio right now that can hear it.
Can we start putting plugins and candles? We want candles. That's the new thing. Put a candle right here in between us,
or just two plugins in my arms.
Some candles in your pit.
I think this shirt I've worn for the first time, I think, is ruined already.
Oh yeah,
it's done for.
Hey, we got our first person, Richard. He's already wanting a shirt. There's gonna be more to come. We're gonna have some updates on our website. That's the next thing that's gonna be phasing out. But yeah, there's people like the shirt already, Ryan. It's pretty cool.
I think it makes a lot of sense. And I to your point,
and that's what Kenneth said. This makes perfect sense.
Right.
I don't know if he's talking about the shirts or your armpits. I don't know, Kenneth. I don't know if you're talking about perfect sense because of the armpits or what. But
the natural deodorant is supposed to smell like green tea and aloe.
Gotcha.
So I don't know, man.
So it's more green tea.
it's neither one.
Yeah.
It's green, but it ain't tea.
So you wasn't specific about the details of your deodorant. You didn't.
Well, the other side of it, when I was in CVS, it was half off. So I don't know what that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So let me ask you this. Now that we're off the topic, before we get into the topic, we always spend 10 minutes of just all this stuff. We just got to have a conversation. This is the beauty of being live.
Yeah.
We don't practice, our intro at all. We study what we're going to be talking about, but we don't practice really what we're going to. This is like a free flowing conversation. So I want to know, and to everybody that's watching us live, if you're watching or listening to us, wherever you listen to, Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, wherever it may be, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube.
All of them.
Shout out to all our people watching us live or if you're listening. But no matter where you are, comment right now for me. This is the one of the two things I'm asking you to comment probably today. Are you a sniffer at the store? Do you sniff your deodorant? Like before you buy a deodorant, some people, like I've been consistent. I've changed my deodorant once or twice over the last 5 years. Specifically,
why do you want to know this?
I just want to know, like, do you pre-smell? Like,
of course you do. Everybody does that.
That's the question. Does everybody? I don't know. It
doesn't matter.
You obviously didn't do it this time. It smelled good until you applied it.
It smells right.
So you got chemicals releasing from your body.
It's not a matter of whether it smells good before. It's whether, it
smells good during.
I am perspirating.
So you're putting good versus evil, and you're coming out still losing right now is what you're saying.
Right. Some leaders are inspirational. I'm perspirational.
So your armpits don't have to suck is what you're saying. There's no such thing as perfect armpits, but yours doesn't have to suck.
My t-shirt does though. Yeah. It's sucking it all in right now. Let me tell you, it's a whole thing. I'm a mess over here. But yeah, to your point, when we're talking about this idea, if you do want to put whether you're a sniffer or not, apparently George wants to know.
Hey, Kenneth, shout out to Kenneth. Kenneth smells his deodorant before he buys it. I appreciate you, Kenneth.
Good for you.
Always been there for us, my friend. Always been there.
We got to get some of our listeners actually to the studio or on the show.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. But
Kenneth's
it's really
been
good.
With us for a while. We didn't have Kenneth on
for like a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've got some really faithful people out there.
Yeah, we appreciate all our support.
We're not perfect, but you don't suck. So that's good. But that's the idea, right? It's back to what you said is like, if there's people involved, it's not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like when I was a pastor, I remember, people would just find the weirdest shit to complain about within the church. And I was like, well, it sounds like you're looking for a perfect church, and we're not a perfect church. As a matter of fact, we used to have a phrase that said this, and I'll change it from church to business, since we're in the business world now. If you ever find a perfect business culture, don't work there, because you'll mess it up.
Yeah.
We used to tell people, don't come to our church because you'll mess it up.
Yeah.
Like there's no such thing as a perfect culture.
Yeah.
But we do have our ideas around what we want our culture to be, what we hope it to be.
Right.
And honestly, it's not just those of us that are leading teams, but those of us that are on teams. And again, we know that leadership isn't just position or title. It's about impact, and it's about setting an example, right? Like that's really what leadership is. So you can lead from anywhere in an organization,
right?
But as long as people are involved, there's always going to be imperfection, because people aren't perfect. Leaders aren't perfect, owners, board members. We're making decisions sometimes on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and I know leaders that are great leaders, and including myself, that our failures and our inadequacies and what we're not great at. You're not going to find a leader that has every skill set.
Right.
Like, man, they're great at the hard skills and every soft skills. Not only do they know how to drive business to perfection, but they're empathetic. Like they're perfectly empathetic. We're not always going to be that way. And I think at the very beginning, we have to provide ourselves, our teams, in the business and of grace to understand that, there are going to be seasons, there are going to be moments that are frustrating. To your point, if you have a frustrated employee, what do you say about that?
It's a sign of investment. You're invested into the company, like they care. You're caring about what you're doing and who you're doing it with.
If you didn't care, you wouldn't be
frustrated.
That's
right?
it.
So you got to have that. It's that balance, right? And as you were talking, Ryan, I think the importance of it is that understanding we're not perfect.
Yeah.
Therefore, the culture won't be perfect. But how do we deal, again, that leader that has great soft skills, hard skills, just great driving the business, and just seems like an all-around team player? At some point in that person's life, they're going to have a rock to climb, right? They're going to have a mountain to climb. They're going to find a hole that they're going to drop into, right? They're going to have a down moment. Who picks them up?
Yeah.
How do they pick themselves up?
Yeah.
Who shows up for them, right? I always talk about, and we've been encouraging, especially as we ended our last season, last month in 2023, it was important for us to understand who shows up for the person who always shows up for others.
Yeah.
Right? That person, because that person seems perfect.
Yeah.
They're always there for other people. They're always cheering on people. They're always in high, but who shows up?
Well, you know how that works. The people that show up for everybody else generally, and this is a generalization, this isn't across the board, but I think this would make sense to everyone, that if you're constantly showing up for other people, many times there's some form of self-neglect to do so. Mm-hmm. Because it's really hard to show up for everybody at a really good level and be known for that, and also show up for yourself at the same time.
Yeah.
Typically, if you have someone that's showing up for others, or they're known for that, they're known for being very caring and spending themselves, their time, talent, treasure, testimony, the 4 T's that we talk about all the time for other people. We have to somehow mentor them. I know this is the month of mentorship, and we'll get into that over the next few weeks. But we have to mentor those people to be able to learn how to show up for themselves in their time, talent, treasure, testimony. I just had a conversation last week. We were putting our care bags together for those that have brain tumors or traumatic brain injuries. I'm seeing them over here across the room from us. And as we're having that conversation, one of the team members from Round Room was walking by, and we were just talking about the fact that it felt like 2023 ended, and then there was like 2 weeks of like family and rushing around, which was our break time, and getting all the holiday stuff done and going to holiday parties and everything that had to get done. And then it was, all right, you had your break, hit the ground running. It's 2024. We got to start moving, Shout out to everybody in finance right now. I know you got There's nobody watching us that's in the finance department. I guarantee
it's a crazy finance.
They got way too much work to do.
Got a lot
right
going
now.
on. This got benefit. People are trying to make sure everybody is enrolled properly.
We're sending all of our love out because I know audits are coming and you got all kinds of stuff. But there's this constant hustle or this feeling of, and I think we get into that too many times with how we care for other people, but we got to hustle in terms of how we care for ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's everything from our mental health to our physical health to our emotional health, right? Making sure that we are in the healthiest state that we can be.
Yeah.
Because the culture is a consequence of leadership.
Yeah. Yeah.
The culture is a consequence of leadership. Until you have perfect leaders, you'll never have a perfect culture.
Yeah.
Right. So there is no such thing as a perfect culture, but yours doesn't have to suck.
Yeah.
But if the leaders really suck, then the culture sucks. That's where we get like a toxic culture.
Yeah.
There's a difference between working in a toxic culture and working in a culture that doesn't suck.
Yeah.
The best we can do is get into a culture that simply doesn't suck. Because it's just what it is. Man.
Yeah. It's their reflection.
Yeah.
Whenever I hear you talk about that, and I hear you saying that a lot, especially in the keynotes or workshops, about that reflection of leadership, and it's just really a reflection of who you are as a leader. It's a reflection of your culture, how your leaders are making your employees feel.
Yeah.
Right. It is an outcome of what the employees then believe, what we call are defined as culture, and it's how employees feel, believe, and then behave.
Most of the time.
Not
all the time.
Not all the time, but most of the time.
Because if it happened all the time, it'd be perfect.
Yeah.
But it happens most of it.
Yeah.
We want it to we want people to feel connected, engaged. We want them to feel like what they're doing matters, that their contribution's meaningful.
Yeah.
We want them to feel that. And in feeling that most of the time, then they're going to believe that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's a reflection. It's like if I as a leader don't behave in a way that builds trust, then you're going to feel like trust isn't a priority in this culture.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It reminds me, and I'm a song or a movie guy, so just a movie of one of the.
Are you going to quiz me?
No, this character looked into the water and
Bugs Bunny
was told to remember who you are.
Okay.
And
I know who that
by
is.
Another animal.
Oh, by an animal. Okay.
Yeah. So there was a type of animal. See, if I give the animal away, then you'll know exactly where it is. But there's two different types of animals, and one was encouraging the other one. Hey, look here, and the animal replied, "That's just a reflection of me." And the animal said, "No, look deeper, and remember who you are." And suddenly, this kid animal was looking in the water, and then it saw a reflection of his dad that he had lost.
Lion King.
Yeah. Right.
Simba.
We have to look deeper into things. If you want to look, and when I think about culture, as we're talking about this today, the perfect-ish culture, right? If we're striving to become good at what we do, and we want to have a good culture for those who are watching this live right now, we're about to dive into these 6 ways that we can get to this place, right? The perfect-ish is if you want to get your culture better in 2024, you don't want it to suck. It doesn't have to. We're gonna give you 6 ways that your culture doesn't have to suck, because you can apply these things, and it does. None of these 6 have to be. The beauty is nothing has to be perfect. You just have to get better. How do I get better every time? I think about how do I get better as a person? How do we get our culture better? It takes me back to Lion King. If we just look a little bit deeper into who we are, we are as a company. It starts with leadership, right?
Yeah.
Everything rises and falls on leadership. We're a reflection of that. How do we evaluate our leaders? What does that look like? And so I want to get into these 6, Ryan, because I want to dive into this, and I want to spend some good quality time and get our good people out there, our community out there, our champion community out there.
Let's do it.
Some good things. So as we're talking about the perfect-ish culture, let's define that. Number one, let's define, how do we define that thing? And then what does it look like for a company out there to say, hey, I don't want to have a sucky culture, but
I would say it goes back to what Scott Moorhead, our business partner, part of Culture of Good, CEO of Round Room, and he has 1,200 Verizon stores across the country and multiple companies, including Culture of Good, within this family or cohort of businesses. And he talks about, we're not looking just for engaged employees, we're looking for effective employees. And when I think about a perfect-ish culture, it's an effective culture.
Yeah.
It's a culture that's effective. It works. Right. I mean, you have to work it, but it works.
Yep.
So it's effective in terms of the dynamic of how effective the leadership is. Again, when we talk about culture is a consequence of leadership, when we think about a perfect-ish culture, it's going to be effective.
Right.
It's not going to hit the mark every time.
Yeah.
As leaders within the organization are not going to. And by the way, we have to give our team members some grace as well, because in terms of giving grace to our team members, we have to understand that they're not perfect either. We set this level of perfection as you have to hit this mark, and it's frustrating. I know, as I talk to and as we talk to a lot of those that may not have the title, and they're just on the team, and then evaluations come around, and the evaluation's always constructive criticism. And last year, we started talking about the difference between constructive criticism and constructive feedback.
Yeah.
It's like giving your point of view in terms of how you can improve, but in a way that is constructive. It's not just simply saying, this is what you're doing wrong.
Yeah.
But here's how we can do this right.
Right.
It doesn't separate the leader from the team member.
Yeah.
It doesn't say you're not who you need to be, and I'm not going to be a part of that.
Yeah.
I expect perfection. And you brought up an interesting terminology earlier. Rather than just simply providing feedback, you said providing feed forward. I love that.
Yeah. It's the quality. And I think as you're talking about that those encouraging leaders to, one of the things I always say is, if you want to find a great leader, you'll find a great leader because that leader is always willing and able to. Being willing to and able to are two different things.
Yeah.
I'm willing to climb a mountain, but am I able to, right?
Yeah.
But being able to and willing to adapt. Adaptability is really a crucial point of that. And one of the things that, as we were ending towards the year, and we've been talking about RSVP so much over the last, 3 to 6 months, and what that means. When we were talking about the whole RSVP and we're talking about constructive feedback, not criticism, there's a song, Moving Forward, that's been stuck in my head. And I was going through some memory flashbacks and with some family friends. And one of the things I thought about was, man, how do we just do everything forward? How do we come forward thinkers, forward believers, right? We're not necessarily want to reflect always on the past. Like when I grew up, it was all about where have you been, where are you going, like reflect.
Yeah.
It's like, no, like leave that behind. I don't want to think about there's certain things in my past I don't want to be thinking about anymore.
Yeah.
If I made a huge mistake in the business, why do I want to think about
exactly.
Get that feedback there?
Right.
What is that going to benefit me to know that, hey, I failed? So how do we progress that? And one of the things that I'm working on it now, how does this align? But how do we give feed forward? Like I want to acknowledge, recognize, and appreciate what you can do as an employee, Ryan, moving forward. So instead of me giving feedback on what we've already done, I want to give you feedback on how you can continue to
forward.
do
I love that.
What you do moving forward together. Right.
And I think to your point, when we're talking about what is a perfect-ish culture, it's not just a culture that's effective. It's a culture that's improving.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like a perfect-ish leader is a leader that's improving.
Yeah. Change.
And
the
that's
thing that
a
lot of people, and you changed my mindset. So prior to Ryan changing my mindset, adaptability, I always said change without the growth. There's nothing there, right? Without change, there can be no growth. You got to be able to have change. And I always thought, man, the reason why people don't want change is that they don't want to be changed. And that's not always true. Change comes from the mindset of a leader. I had a leader that I was always worried about making change because it disrupts things. And it wasn't that they didn't want change around us. They just didn't want to have to change their habits. Right. There was no adaptability there. And so that always put fear in everybody else. Well, if that person doesn't like change because of the fear of the unknown, why would I want to change? And be changed? We can change everything else. And so we have to be willing, listen, if you want growth, there has to be change.
Well, and to your point, if you want growth, you need to be around people that want it too.
Yeah. and not
because
fear change.
Right.
There's no
That's
fear.
what I'm saying.
Fear is the false evidence appearing real that comes from somebody else, right? And so that when we talk about the reflection of leadership, if we are leaders and telling people change is scary, then it's gonna be scary. But if we tell people change is exciting, it's inspiring, there's growth, there's elevation, they're gonna embody those words. They're gonna feed off of those things, and their energy, their mindset is gonna be exactly the reflection of you, the leader.
I think part of that is what we discovered is one of the fears that a lot of employees have is there's no clarity around why changes happen.
Yeah.
So I think it's not a matter of whether people do or don't want change. A lot of times I think it's the fact that we haven't clarified why the change is happening in the first place, or why this area of your life needs to improve.
Yeah.
If I simply say, George, I need you to work on this area of your leadership or of your ability, maybe it's a soft skill or hard skill, and I just simply tell you that, then you leave wondering why.
Yeah. Where did this
where does this come from? Like, why is he all of a sudden bringing this up?
Yeah.
You know? And that's why communication is a two-way street, and it's not just a matter of a leader telling you what to do.
Yeah.
But also, as a leader in someone's life, I should have the space and availability to talk about these things, to give that constructive feed forward, right?
Yeah.
To be able to say, this is what the future can look like, but these are the areas where you can improve, and this is how we can do this together. Yeah. And that means to you, I'm not just investing my thoughts about you into this conversation. I'm investing myself, and I'm saying, as part of this change and improvement in your life as a human being, because the better you get at being human, I believe the better you get at being a leader.
Yeah.
And so if I notice something in your life that can be improved, and I say, let's take this journey together, and let's grow together, and let's improve together, that's a whole different conversation. And that I think is really important. So when we define what a perfect-ish culture is, it's always going to be about, is the culture effective and is it improving?
Yeah.
Right. Are we going backwards? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Are we headed back to, we've never done it that way, or
always done it this way?
Always done it this way. Yeah. We tried, we've never tried that before and it didn't work.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
So yeah, I think, man, I didn't realize how, looks like I need some sun on those ankles, brother. Woo.
And you go down to Florida, bro.
I need a vacation. I need some sun in my eyes. But yeah, I think defining what a perfect-ish culture is for you, and maybe that's another question that we throw out there, isn't just, are you a sniffer? But also, how would you define a perfect-ish culture? Right?
Like that look like?
Yeah. What does that look like? For in my mind, I'm thinking it's effective and improving. And that's because I think the more we improve, the more effective we are. And if we are effective, we are improving, right? Yeah. So it kind of feeds into each other.
So every organization should define what that perfect-ish culture is to them, because everything that we give a lot of insight, and we share a lot of things that we see works within our organizations or works with organizations that we're working with as we go out and do leadership development for our clients. But one of the things that we always tell people as we're coming in is, this is just a tool. This is a workbook. This is a playbook. This is what works for us. Apply it how it works for you, right? How does this look when it comes to bringing good and culture within your organization? So making sure you understand our definition of a perfect-ish culture is to improve and be effective. But the reflection of what that looks like for you could look different based on, you may be in a different place of leadership.
So if you have an idea now, I think you could throw that on social media. We'd love to get some feedback on that, because, there could be also areas that I'm not thinking about. I mean, effective and improving is very general in terms of those things, but we'll dive a little deeper into the specifics around that and how to be more effective and how to improve to more of a perfect-ish culture. But that's a great question, I think, for leadership teams to ask of each other, what does a perfect-ish culture look like?
Yeah.
And then as people are being hired into our organizations and they say, what's your culture like? You could say it's perfect-ish.
Yeah.
And this is what we mean by that.
Yeah.
We don't hit the mark every time. We don't have perfect leaders. We don't make perfect decisions.
Yeah.
There's going to be times that, there's layoffs. I know large companies are dealing with that. Many times they have to lay off people while they're saying that their value is people.
Yeah.
So how do you balance that?
Yeah.
Well, there's business decisions that have to be made. And if they're not being made out of greed, but for the profitability and the solvency of the organization, the business, we have to stay in business. We have to, business. The first rule of business is to stay in business. It's a money-making venture.
Yeah.
And we say we put people first, but the reality is, if you're in business, many times you're going to be putting the profits first.
Yeah.
And so the question is, how do we get to a place where we are prioritizing our people, where we are prioritizing the realities of, like, I've heard so many stories of people getting laid off during Christmas break or right before Christmas. And that just, it's like insult on top of injury. You know what I'm saying? It's like, kick me while I'm down.
Yeah.
It's really difficult many times to wrestle with that. There's a rub in that sense of how do I lead a successful organization and business that's profitable, but how do I do so with a sense of purpose? I call it purposability. It's purpose that leads to profitability, and profitability that is driven by purpose, right?
Yeah.
It's purposability. But that's a nice term, but how do we do that in real business and real life? I think there's always going to be challenges around prioritizing people, prioritizing our teams. There'll be challenges with leaders leading with empathy. I have a real good friend, John, up in Canada. Shout out to John Brewer. And he always talks about, he has a conference. I actually didn't have the opportunity to go up and speak for him. It's the only conference I had to cancel last second because all the planes got grounded because speaking of planes getting grounded, what about that one where the side of it blew out, yo?
Yeah.
That was a little crazy. But anyway, couldn't get up there, but he had a conference about leading from the heart. And how do we lead from the heart, right? Kind of heart forward in that sense. And I think having a perfect-ish culture is a culture that recognizes our inadequacies, recognizes what we're not good at, and is honest and open about those things. I would say a perfect-ish culture is a culture that's honest.
Yeah.
That's
good.
Yeah.
That's good. Number two, so you define what a perfect-ish culture looks like in your organization, right? The second thing is really kind of the myth of a perfect culture. Right? The perfection in company culture. There's always this, implement how to do we get better?
Yeah.
Right. I struggle even saying perfect because in the back of my mind, like perfection
improved.
It isn't better. But
how do we improve?
How do we then blank, whatever you define your perfect-ish culture? How do you perfect that? How do you improve in company culture?
Are you asking me?
I'm asking you.
Well, if we define culture as how most people feel, believe, and behave most of the time, then we need to figure out how they're feeling, how they're believing, and how they're behaving. The way to not do this is to start with behavior.
Right.
Now we can see the values of a leader. We can see the values of a company through observable behavior.
Yeah.
So, when we talk about the values that you have hanging on a wall, they have to be written on people's hearts, not on a wall.
Yeah.
In the
something
way
we embody.
Right. That we embody. And
so
I know what you value based on your observable behaviors because actions speak louder than words. We understand that. And so, but how are people believing? Because behavior comes from belief and belief comes from a feeling. And so how are people feeling within this culture? How do they feel? Do they feel connected? Do people feel connected? Right. I mean, we have these satisfaction surveys and we can get some data from it. Like, I feel supported. We use terminology like feel. Those things are really that's where we want to identify is like, how are people feeling?
Yeah.
Because the myth, you're right, there's a myth about a perfect company culture and people want that. you know? And I hear people complain. I go on Reddit all the time. I love Reddit, man. If you're on Reddit, you can go on the subreddit anti-work and you just read so much stuff on there.
Yeah.
It's actually where I found today's craziest shit in HR segment, which we'll get into in just a second. But you know, it's easy to complain about what we don't like, but it's because it's more challenging to be introspective and look internal rather than saying, well, this is why the culture sucks because of this person, that person, and that person.
Yeah.
And the whole time we're walking around talking about them and creating more division and causing all kinds of BS in the office, and we're actually contributing toward a very sucky culture. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the idea is, first we have to look at ourselves and say, where am I not being effective? And if I am, where can I improve? Right. And I think the myth of a perfect company culture comes from a place where we're getting that feedback from ourselves as a leader, but also we're curating experiences and opportunities and spaces to be able to receive that feed forward or whatever it is, right? To be able to say, okay, these are the areas where we need to be more effective. And this is how we can improve to get there. That's the idea. That's the actionable steps. It's curating these spaces where we can get that feedback and that feed forward, or whatever we want to call it, from our team members. That open communication is crucial within that concept, because if we don't know what's going on, we don't know how to lead what's happening.
Yeah. Got to know your people.
Yeah. What about you? What are you thinking?
You know, I think from the perfection, getting better, it's the foundation of everything that we do or say. One of the things that stuck out with me, and shout out to our good friend and brother from another mother, Ben Eubanks. And I want to share this. I pulled it up on my phone because we were chatting this morning, and I was sharing. He was, asking how things, just kind of checking in, and we were excited. One of the things that we're working on now, last year we did our peace, performance, engagement, and culture enablement research. My first research I did with Lighthouse Research and Advisory on the employee side, and we're about to launch our employer side.
Okay.
And we just got all the data back from that and going through a lot of those things. And one of the questions he kind of snuck in there because he wanted to kind of see, what's been the difference over the last 5 to 7 years. So over the course of the last 5 to 7 years, how does this research look in comparison to previous?
Yeah.
So we went all the way back prior to, we didn't want to have the COVID. We wanted to go pre-COVID. So we went 2017.
Okay.
In comparison. And one of the questions is, which of the following parts of your organization's current performance and management approach, right? So what's the approach from management? Like, what is your leaders doing? How are they staying connected? We talk about improving culture.
Yeah.
What's the focus of those things? And one of the things we always talk about is making sure we're checking in and those things. In 2017, the top, I'll say, let's do the top 4 real quickly. Number 1 was annual goal setting. That was the focus that their management had when it came to performance, right? Their performance management approach was geared towards, we're going to focus on annual goal setting.
Uh-huh.
That's going to be it. The second one was coaching and development.
Okay.
Right. And then recognition for good performance
Was third.
And then that was the third. And then peer-to-peer feedback.
Okay. It was
right. So there's a lot of communication we talk about, and we're going to get into that next, right? As one of those things. But what has changed from 2017 till today is that the number one thing right now, the employee from the employer side, is recognition for good performance is the focus.
In 2017, it was third.
It was third.
Yeah. And now it's number 1.
And now it's number 1. But it has changed and has really switched. Number 2, which wasn't in the top 4. Number 2 is focusing on developing and leveraging strengths. We talked about feedback. There's no longer feedback. We're talking about feed forward.
That's the RSVP.
Right? We want to recognize
strengths
for good performances, right? We want to recognize, hey, Ryan, this is what you're doing well. This is what we really are liking. Why? Because I want Ryan to do more of this, right? If Ryan is striving, one of our 5 promises here in Round Room, right, at TCC, is to be data driven, right? Yeah. How you driving the business. Driving the business. How's Ryan? So we're recognizing Ryan's good performance for driving the business.
Yeah.
We're recognizing Ryan for what he's bringing to the culture, how he's making people feel. Yeah. Right. Ryan's very encouraging. He's very uplifting. He's always smiling, even when he don't want to smile. right? He's always asking people how they're doing, and not just a drive-by, conversation. He's actually driving and stopping to engage. And so focusing on developing and leveraging those strengths is huge for the annual goal setting. So we're going to have annual goal setting, but beyond annual goal setting, we're going to focus on recognizing people throughout this year.
They called it R&R, recognition and reward.
Yeah.
I call that rest and relaxation.
Yeah. So, hey, if you're going to give me a little R&R, recognition and reward, then I'm going to relax. But the focus of those things, Ryan, I say that is that implementing, as we've been encouraging people to do, that feed forward, and making it a part of, that norm. Like I always expect Ryan to give me something good. Right. I always feel like Ryan is always going to say or make me feel good about myself somehow, some way, whether it's recognizing my shoes or whether it's recognizing my shirt or whether it's recognizing.
I like that, because that is a culture of good. I would say it this way, that we can't make people happy, but we can give them a good feeling. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And if we can give people a good feeling, then that gives them the space to be happy. Yeah. Because happiness is something that no one can give you. Yeah. But people can give you a good feeling. And when you show up for people, when you have a heart of empathy, when you lead with your heart, again, learning a lot of that from John Brewer, being able to have that kind of heart for people, it really goes a long way. Yeah. It creates an opportunity. And I think sometimes we feel like if we're a leader, we have to like kind of be hard a little bit, like that old school mentality of like, it's all about driving success. It's all about driving results. How are we driving? How are we going to drive results in the next quarter? How are we going to drive? And there's a difference between driving and leading. Yeah. It's a difference between the cowboy and the shepherd. The cowboy is always driving, always from behind, pushing everybody forward. Whereas the shepherd is walking with the sheep, walking out front, creating space so that the sheep have the opportunity to continue to move forward, to continue to be effective, to continue to improve. It's the difference between, the cowboy mentality of the past is if somebody was critical or had feedback, it was met with opposition. Yeah. Right. But now the new leader of today and moving forward, it's not about saying, okay, if you have an area where you see the business needs to improve, then I'm going to be offended by that. Or you don't want to stick your neck out and say where we need to improve as a culture and as a business. I know some people are listening to this. They're like, well, I don't have leaders that I can be honest with. I was just on a call with someone this last week. And we talked for a real long, good time about this whole very thing right here. Well, I can't talk to my leader about that stuff. Yeah. I'm like, well, I was like, why? Like, well, anytime we bring anything up, it's always like an excuse, or we tried that, or somebody brought that up before and we worked on it, and it just is like a flavor of the month kind of thing. Or we started that, like recognition and reward, right? Yeah. So many companies start those kind of programs, but they're a program. Yeah. But when you have a leader who's recognizing you, that sees you, that hears you, that takes the time to listen. Yeah. If you're not listening to people, you are not leading people. That's it. Yeah. If you're not listening to people, you're not leading people. And if you don't lead with a heart of love, then it's really difficult to go beyond just simply driving results, which means you're driving people. And as you and I both know, in terms of mental health and emotional health and well-being within the workplace, the more we drive people, we're not driving them forward, we're driving them into the ground. Yeah.
That's when I think about it, as you're talking, Ryan, I'm thinking about the cowboy. It's very hard to know the cowboy leader when you're getting pushed from behind all the time. There's no conversation. Yeah. You just know what you're supposed to do to get out of that person's way and get there as fast as you can so they can get off your back, right?
Yeah, so they can get their bonus.
So they can get their bonus, right? While you get pizza.
Pizza, right?
They're getting a steak, right? So it's that cowboy leadership is so toxic in a sense, because there's frustration. Yeah. What happens when a person is tired but they're still getting pushed, right? The mental health aspect, being exhausted, right? They get burned out, they quit, they leave. And you say we only leave them because there's bad leadership. No, sometimes it's the bad culture. Where did bad culture come from?
Yeah.
We say it's a reflection of the leadership that's getting pushed. And so when we talk about, some of those actionable steps, encouraging leaders, right? Making sure there's some inclusivity around there, making sure that there's a responsive culture where we can have feed forward, right? That's a new word. When I think of feed forward, I think of the fast forward, but I would just get rid of, let's move forward together, right? We went together, never lose alone mentality. And so in order to do that, number 3, communication,
open, clear communication. It's gotta be it's such an integral part. And I know we talk about it so much, but when we talk about communication, and we're communicating about communication, it's helpful to be able to get not only what we're hearing from our leaders, but what our leaders are hearing from us. And back to what I was just talking about, are we afforded the opportunity to be honest? Because if not, then how are we talking about building a culture of trust? And we're not afforded the opportunity to be honest, to really say this is what's going on. I mean, have you ever been in I know everybody out there has been in one of these meetings where everybody in the meeting agrees with the leader, but the moment the meeting's over, they go outside. The leader's talking to one person, and then everybody walks out, and they're like, "Oh, it's a bunch of crap."
That ain't happening.
Oh,
there's an over/under bet right now on how long this lasts, right? It's always that way, but
it's like, how are we talking about building a culture of trust? And I'll be speaking for a company in Washington, D.C. Here shortly, Teradata. And the whole thing is about relational leadership. It's about how do we foster relationship and foster trust and foster open. It comes down to not only what we're communicating, but how we're communicating it. How is it coming across? Right. There may be somebody that's like, just tell me what I need to get done, because I just want to get in here, get my work done, and get home, because I want to be with my family. So I want to get my work done as fast as possible. And to them, that's what they want. But what we find is a majority of people want a leader that listens to them. And I had a mentor, a workout mentor. He was in his I think he was 68 when we started working out together. And we'd be talking about all kinds of stuff. He's like, "Ryan," I was like, "What?" Because I'd just be talking. I wasn't listening to him. And he'd trying to give me some wisdom and mentor me. And he'd say, "Ryan," I'd say, "What?" He said, "Your mouth is starving your ears to death." I was like, damn. It's like we get into a conversational loop in our own head. And active listening is one of those skills. It's what we would call a soft skill. I would call it a hard skill, because it's not an easy one to learn and to grow in. But that active listening, where we're not just hearing what someone's saying and in our head thinking of a response, but we're really listening. We're grabbing every word. We're listening to the nuances. We're listening to, how is this person feeling when they're saying this? They're talking about their frustration. If you brought frustration to me and I wasn't listening to you, then I could reply in a way that would make you more frustrated. But if you're talking to me in a frustrated way as a team member, and I'm your leader, and I say, "I hear what you're saying," and I say it back to you. "Here's what you're frustrated about. Here's how how do you feel like we can improve?"
Do I understand you to say?
Yeah. How can we be more effective in that? How can I improve as your leader? Not how can you improve as my team member? But how can I improve?
I always said it. I always use this: listen to lead. Right. How can I lead others? I listen to learn. Selfishly, this is for me. Or I listen to last. How do I keep this situation healthy?
Or listen to laugh. You just walk out and laugh.
Right. And then there's the final L. Let's have 5 of them. I listen to lead.
Right?
Because a person is only going to say something so many times before they realize there's no fruit coming out of the conversation. And so
that's why people give up.
So you develop leaders. We talk about this, developing leaders on how to effectively communicate. I always tell and say it this way, is that everybody has a different love language. So how Ryan communicates to me may be totally different than how Ryan may communicate to Joe or to Sarah or to Kim, right? We're all different. Now there'll be some things that you just have to communicate how it is. As the leader, there has to be some verbiage sometimes in how you communicate overall. But when I really want to be effective and I want to say, hey, George, I know that we weren't connected I can see that there was a disconnect in our meeting today when we were all meeting together, right? One of the things I learned as a leader, as you talked about, I was the other person on the side of the table where I was talking, and then our employees would leave the room and be like, man, that ain't gonna happen. That ain't gonna work. Right. And so I learned to listen while I'm speaking. I'm listening to the room. How's the room? Because listening isn't always audible. It's not what they say, it's what they don't say, but their body says it all. Right. And so how do you do that? I believe companies and organizations, especially in 2024, as they're wanting to grow so their culture doesn't suck. Your culture doesn't want to suck. You don't want it to suck. Learn how to communicate. Learn the language that your people speak. And the importance. We talked about that back in October, November of last year on the importance of communication, the types of communication people can do, but really developing, don't train them, develop communication and how to communicate, how to learn the body language, how to ask employees to gain that trust, right? Because by now you may not have that trust. How do I gain the trust from those who I've lacked, right?
You got to build it.
It's vulnerability. It's saying, hey, listen, last year I sucked as a leader, right? Being honest with yourself. I was horrible at communication. If it was horrible, right?
You don't have to say you suck.
If you don't suck, but maybe it's, hey, I wasn't great at communicating. I thought I was, and for some I was, but can you tell me, right? It's that give me feed for it. Can you give me some feed for how I communicate? Am I connected? How do you respond? Like, what is it that what do I need to do to communicate with you?
And as I've gotten older, and my daughters have gotten older, I have a 30 and 25-year-old, and I've learned so much from them, but I had to start listening as a dad. A lot of dads aren't great at listening. You know what I'm saying? Or parents in general. Right. And so you can't lead your kids if you don't listen to them. It's the same way, right? When you were talking, the word that came into mind is a phrase that was used during the pandemic and since is quiet quitting. Quiet quitting. They don't say anything. They've quit. There's quiet. They're doing enough work to not get fired because you're paying them just enough to not quit. But they're a quiet quitter.
Right.
And when people get quiet, when kids don't have the space to talk to a parent, we've always given our girls the opportunity to say what was on their mind, what was on their heart, and then we work through it. But never did we say, you can't say that. Because the moment we start teaching them what they can't say is the moment they stop saying anything at all.
Right.
Because what else can they not say? And so I think it's really important to understand that if your team members are a bunch of yes people, that's not a healthy culture. If your team is not communicating where you as a leader need to improve and be effective, that's not a perfect-ish culture. Right. That is an indicator and a consequence of a leader that doesn't listen. And so if people are quiet around you, or every time you talk to them, they're just hearing the good stuff, then you have to say, okay, how can I create a greater space for greater communication? Can we take a break before we
got 7 minutes.
We got 7 minutes?
7 minutes, bro.
Oh, we got to be done in an hour?
Oh, we don't have to. We can go all day long. Do you want to share?
Well, I do want to share this craziest shit in HR. Okay. All right. So I'm going to read this article title for you, but this is craziest shit in HR brought to you by Culture of Good.
I got you.
Okay, I don't think you're ready for this one. and maybe we'll just kind of wrap things up and hit next week. We'll do the next three.
Next week.
Is that cool? Okay, cool. So be with us next week. We're going to be coming back every Monday, 1:00. All right. So, all right, I'm going to read the title to this article and you tell me if this is the craziest shit in HR or not. All right. Florida man sues Dunkin' Donuts for $50,000 in damages after claiming exploding toilet left him covered in human urine and feces.
All right. So I was thinking something about coffee because, people burn their hands, burn their lips, burn their chest. They're spilling coffee. The lid went on all the way.
I remember McDonald's got food.
Yeah, I thought $50,000. That's not enough money for me to have a.
Imagine if you got done with your 2 donuts. Now, for me, the best donut in the world is not even a donut; it's an apple fritter.
Fritter?
I don't know what a fritter is, but fritters are better than donuts. Anyway,
it's probably the critters that they catch.
Yeah. Now I will.
Critters is the fritter.
Believe me, I'll eat a donut. Don't get me wrong, I'll eat a donut. I don't care what it is. But I get done with my 2 donuts, drink a little coffee. That coffee hits me. I'm 47 years old, man. I got to go bad.
Yeah.
So I go into the bathroom, I'm looking around, I'm putting that little paper down. I sit down, I use the restroom, I flush the toilet. The toilet explodes all over the room. This is the real story. All over the room is feces and urine everywhere. And he's suing for $50,000, not just in physical damages, mind you.
Yeah.
Psychological damages.
Yeah, you can't sit on the toilet anymore. You got trust issues. I appreciate all of America, by the way, Ryan, all of America. I just want to say out there as we kick off our first episode of the year, appreciates your preparation in the bathroom.
now wait a second here, because the story.
Are you over and under? Was he?
No, but
did he pull the toilet paper and it exploded?
Yeah,
what
he suffered severe and long-term injuries, covered with debris. Including
the poop,
all of that. Yes. Now here's what's interesting. Here's the craziest shit in HR.
Oh, it gets bad.
After leaving the room, he said he tried to get help from staff at the store and was told that they were aware of the problem with the toilet as prior incidents with the toilet had occurred.
Oh, so they just already have, they got a check waiting for somebody to just put their name on it.
They said this
know this is a problem.
This happens all the time.
Oh,
I don't know what you're suing us for.
So so then I got so many mental issues. I'm thinking the chocolate donuts are not chocolate anymore. I'm thinking somebody that worked there had an issue.
It's a mess. It's a mess, yo.
So they're literally dunking.
Yeah, they ain't dunking donuts.
They're dunking more than donuts. They're dunking
their customers, bro.
Yeah. I remember back in the church days, we have the dunk machines, throw a ball and get dunked.
It's like that.
Just go to Dunkin' Donuts and use the bathroom.
Dunkin' humans, bro. That's what it is.
Man,
Dunkin' humans.
I don't know if I can go to Dunkin' anymore.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I'm not a Dunkin' fan anyway. I don't do a lot of donuts.
No such thing as a perfect Dunkin' Donuts, but yours
don't have to
suck.
Or blow up. That's the problem. Bluey.
Maybe it does need to suck.
Yeah. There's some things that should.
Anyway,
and there's some things that shouldn't.
Yeah.
And culture is one that shouldn't suck.
Man, this was a good episode, bro.
Yeah.
It's a good show. I'm glad people joined us. I'm excited because we're really trying to grow not just our viewership live on Mondays. Yeah. We switched it from Wednesdays to Mondays, so we'd have the whole week to promote next week. And we're gonna finish up with this perfect-ish culture next week and part 2. And listen, I'm excited because we're improving.
Yeah.
We're becoming more effective. I have people all the time say, hey, I listened to the show and I just want to appreciate you're not just talking, but you're giving us good practical advice on how to do this.
Yeah.
And for today, if I were to summarize it all, it was like, when you think about what kind of leader you are, understand that that's important.
Yeah.
It's just important. It's important to self-assess, to look at not just what does a culture look like, but who am I? It's to your point, Simba.
Yeah.
It's like, look deeper, right? Not just at the reflection of who you are, but also the deeper parts of, how you feel, how you believe, and how you behave as a leader, and how you can improve and how you can be more effective. And, I think that's so important.
I'm talking about the
man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his way.
Change him.
So for those of you that are out there, help us spread the message.
Yeah.
And subscribe. We're excited that we'll be back with you next week, next Monday, 1 p.m. Eastern time on Champion
Your Culture.